The sun rose like a wounded ember over the shattered skyline of what was once Denver. The city, half buried in ash and silence, stood as a monument to what humanity used to be: ambitious, loud, unstoppable. Now, the only sounds were wind and the faint hum of scavenger drones picking through the ruins. Captain Mara Vance adjusted the cracked visor of her helmet as she scanned the valley below. Her breath fogged the glass with every exhale, a faint rhythm against the ghostly quiet. Beside her, Lieutenant Aiden Holt crouched behind a fallen comms relay, his rifle tracking the horizon. "Nothing but dust and ghosts," Holt muttered. "Feels like the end of the world." Mara didn't answer. The end had already come, weeks ago. When the Ophics arrived, humanity never stood a chance. The first ships appeared over major cities, black silhouettes that swallowed the sun. Then came the storms, energy pulses that fried satellites, power grids, and every defense system the Earth had ever built. In 7 days, civilization collapsed. Mara and Holt had survived the fall of the Earth Defense Alliance by sheer luck, and because they refused to die quietly. Now they led what was left of the resistance in the Rocky Mountains, scavenging tech, training survivors, and broadcasting desperate distress calls to anyone still listening. But no one ever answered. "Movement at Sector 4, Holt said suddenly, tapping the side of his helmet. "Thermal signatures. Could be scavengers, or them." Mara dropped to a knee, raising her scope. Through the haze, she saw glimmers of shifting silver light rippling through the canyon. Ophics drones, morphing and flowing like liquid metal. They were scouts, silent, fast, and utterly merciless. "Sound the alarm," she ordered. "We're out of time." Below, the makeshift base came alive. Survivors scrambled into bunkers, reloading plasma rifles and sealing blast doors. The sound of clanking armor and nervous breathing filled the tunnels. Mara grabbed her pulse rifle, chambered a cell, and met Holt's eyes. "Ready." "Always," he said with a thin grin that didn't reach his eyes. They sprinted down the ridge, boots crunching over glass and rubble, as the drones descended like a storm of black locusts. The sky itself seemed to hum, that same bone-deep vibration that preceded every Ophic strike. "Fire!" Blue plasma bolts streaked upward, hitting the front line of drones. The air filled with sizzling energy and the smell of burning ozone. For a heartbeat, Mara thought they were holding. Then the drones changed. They shifted. The swarm folded into a single mass, forming a spear of molten alloy that pierced the defense line in seconds. The explosion threw Mara and Holt backward, slamming them into the rock. "Mara!" Holt's voice crackled over the comm. "I'm fine," she gasped, struggling to her feet. She aimed at the advancing swarm and unleashed a burst of suppressive fire, her armor's servos whining from strain. But for every drone they downed, 2 more emerged. "They're adapting too fast," Holt yelled. "We can't win this." Mara bit her lip until it bled. "Then we don't win. We survive." She ripped a small black cylinder from her belt, a prototype EMP charge, last of its kind. She twisted the top, armed it, and slammed it into the ground. "Brace!" The pulse detonated with a blinding flash. The entire canyon lit up as if struck by lightning. When the glare faded, the Ophic swarm had collapsed into molten fragments, sizzling and hissing in the snow. The survivors stayed in disbelief. "Holy hell!" Holt whispered. "You actually did it." Mara knelt beside the remains of one of the drones, its core still pulsing faintly. "No," she said quietly. "This wasn't victory. This was just buying time." She looked to the horizon, where the faint outline of an Ophix warship hung like a storm cloud. Even damaged, even limping, it was enormous. "We can't keep fighting like this," Holt said, wiping ash from his visor. "Sooner or later, they'll find the base." "They already have," Mara replied grimly. "They always do." That night, the survivors buried their dead beneath the frozen soil. There were only 17 of them left now. Engineers, ex-soldiers, medics. The last spark of humanity's once great fire. Mara stood alone at the edge of the camp, staring into the flickering flames of a makeshift torch. The snow fell in slow spirals, whispering across the scorched ground. She opened a worn data tablet, the last operational one in the camp, and played a recorded message. This is Captain Mara Vance of the Earth Defense Alliance. If you can hear this, you are not alone. Humanity endures. Repeat, humanity endures. Static filled the air. No reply. Holt approached quietly, a steaming cup of recycled water in his hands. Still no signal. Not even an echo, she murmured. He sighed and handed her the cup. You should get some rest. You've been running on fumes. I'll rest when we're safe. You mean if... He corrected softly. Mara shot him a look, but her lips twitched. You always were the optimist. Someone has to be, Holt said, sitting beside her. The firelight reflected in his visor like twin stars. You ever wonder what it's all for? Why we keep fighting? She stared into the flames. Because this planet is home. Because no one else will fight for it. Holt nodded, then hesitated. What if home doesn't exist anymore? Mara didn't answer. She didn't have to. The question lingered between them like a ghost. At dawn, an alarm blared through the camp. Captain, we're picking up a signal, a young comms tech shouted, her voice trembling. It's human frequency. Mara's heart jumped. Where from? Coordinates traced to the lunar surface. But that's impossible. The moon colonies went dark months ago. Holt's eyes met hers. Maybe not all of them. Mara's hand tightened around her rifle. Get the shuttle prepped. We're going to find out who's still talking up there. As she turned toward the hangar, the wind carried the low hum of the Ophix warship beyond the clouds, a distant, inhuman roar that vibrated through the bones of the earth. Mara didn't flinch. She'd seen the end of the world once. Now, she was ready to rewrite it. End of Chapter 1. 1,080 words white have a check mark.